Hi guys, welcome. This is Eric Rodabois, EPGD Attorneys at Law PA, doing business as EPGD Business Law. This is one of our first videos in the new office. I think we did a couple, but welcome. I hope the lighting is okay. So here's the moral of today's story. It's more expensive to fix things after the fact than it is to do things right the first time. And here's the story that just happened. And by the way, as I'm speaking right now, I can think of so many examples. So this lady calls me and she's representing a client, and the client bought a boat. Okay, this is very common down here in South Florida. It's a power boat, 32 foot, it's pretty nice. And when he bought it, he went ahead and put it in the name of the LLC. That means the title on the boat, like the title issued by the DMV, is in the name of the LLC that also owns his commercial real estate where he runs his business and also owns his business. So to put it in your mind, he's got one company that owns a building, that owns a boat, and that owns a business all together. Okay? So one day somebody says to him, hey, that's not a very good idea. You should have a separate company for the boat. Now, as an aside, you should also have a separate company for the building, a separate company for the business, and a separate company. Like, the idea is you keep each thing in its own little basket. So heaven forbid there's some sort of accident, maybe it involves alcohol on a holiday weekend on his boat, and the lawsuit that obviously is going to come afterwards won't threaten his business and his building. So he's actually figured that out, and he's come looking around for the cheapest way to do this. So I do my research, and it turns out that in order to transfer the title of a boat, it's pretty easy. You just got to go down with some sort of transfer document, like a bill of sale. You take it to the DMV, just like for your cars. This is here in Florida. And at that time, the DMV is going to ask you to pay the sales tax. Because normally what happens is when you're changing title, it's because there's been a fair exchange for the property. So let's say I buy the boat. I'm going to go get it retitled, and I'm going to get it in my name, and they're going to ask me to pay sales tax, which is about 6% here in Florida. So he says, I don't want to pay sales tax. It costs too much. Now, I learned something great from my friend Carlos Garrido. He says, are you more concerned with the cost or the risk? And it's a great question. And if you frame it like that, so many things that us professionals do, it's just like that. Are you more concerned with the cost than the risk? So let's talk about the risk. There's an accident. He loses his business, his building, and his boat, right? Whereas the cost is I need to set up a new LLC, I need to hire a lawyer to draft a transfer document, and I need to go down with my time to the DMV and pay a sales tax. Okay, that's the cost. And so I guess the way to think about it is, does the cost outweigh the risk, or does the risk outweigh the cost? Now, if you ask me, he's looking at maybe a couple $1,000s total for this whole project, including the taxes and everything. Whereas he could lose, what's commercial real estate and a business cost? I don't know, a lot. You tell me. So, this same story. Here's another one. A client of mine is buying a house and goes ahead and puts it into their own name. Then 2 weeks later, they come to me and they say, hey, I need to do an estate plan. And I said, great, you should really put that house in the name of a revocable trust. If he just thought of it before, they would have just issued the title in the name of the revocable trust. Now, we got to hire someone to go and draft another quitclaim deed and pay another recording fee. Now, these are relatively low costs, but it has to be done from the beginning. Here's another one. People all the time are buying real estate, condos, for example, as investment properties. So they're putting them in the names of an LLC. But a lot of times they don't think about it. And by the way, if you think that your realtor has your fiduciary duties at heart, ask them to define fiduciary duty. I'm serious. Because if they had your fiduciary duties, no realtor would sell any property to a foreigner without saying, hey, have you thought about the estate tax consequences if you die? But they're never going to do that. You know why? Because then they're going to go talk to someone like me, and I'm going to tell them we got to set up all these structures, and it's going to take a couple of weeks, and it might jeopardize the realtor's commission. So who do you think the realtor's really working for? So the foreigner who buys the condo, who then finds out that if they drop dead, they're going to owe $200,000 in taxes that their family's going to have to pay because the property's in their own name, and they're going to have to do a probate and everything. It's going to be the worst case scenario. And then they come to me and I'm like, yeah, well, we need to set up an offshore structure. We need to set up a U.S. holding company. We need to retitle it all. And here's the worst part. If there's any loan on the property, then the property appraiser is going to ask for a documentary stamp tax, which is a percentage of the amount of the mortgage. So, you could say for a $100,000 mortgage, it might be a few $100. For $1 million mortgage, it might be many thousands of dollars. And that's just the documentary stamp tax. Now think about it. If you had just done it the first time, you're going to pay the tax anyways. So that way, on the day that the foreigner buys the condo, it's in the name of their LLC. Or on the day that the person buys the boat, it's in the name of a separate property. Or on the day that the family buys their home, they go ahead and put it in the name of their trust. With just one extra step of thinking, you avoid that extra transfer and extra cost and extra headache later. So just something to think about, food for thought. I'll let you know if the guy ends up moving the boat or leaving it pooled with everything else. Eric Rodebois coming at you from EPGD Land. Thank you.